Mountain Time, and that means it's time to talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Happy New Year. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social pages that we're on these days, including Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. Talk El Paso on most of those pages, or Andrew J. Polk, or both of them in some cases. So if you are joined up with us here as we renew the discussion here in the new year about the things that affect us here in the Borderland, you are most welcome to do so. If you had missed our announcements we made at the end of last year, we are going to be starting, as of today, being 2 hours. So you've got here at the start of the show, and then we'll be going through 6 o'clock now, 4 to 6 p.m., Monday through Friday, is what we're doing as we have the discussion about the things that affect us here in the Borderland. So what does that mean, you may be asking? I'll pretend you are. What that means is that we'll be having more discussion, getting into more topics, and also taking more calls. That was always kind of a frustration there, particularly when we were getting towards the end of a show. We'd really get a discussion going, and then we had to end. So that's one feature. So we may probably end up opening up the lines, as we usually do, towards the bottom of this first hour, but we will definitely be taking more during the second hour, as we have Edgar Ortiz joining us here already. In his own words, stoked about the 2 hours already. I'll have to agree with you here. Some of the things we got coming up this week as well will be joined by tomorrow, the editor of El Paso Inc., Robbie Gray, to talk about some of those big stories. We'll touch on them a little bit here today, but there's a lot going on, as we also have Leroy Chuck chiming in with us over on the Facebook page, facebook.com/Talk El Paso. That's really the Thunderdome of comments, what I consider the main page. It's the oldest page, even if there's the most problems with it. But if you want to chime in, join in, participate, that's one of the better ways to do so throughout the show, as we will then also take calls, so pound 250 and otherwise throughout the couple of hours now. But let's start with first things first, those guests coming to talk about some of those issues. Robbie Gray with their big stories, and some things with a lot of people you've heard previously on the show as well about what some of the economic outlook is. So we'll probably touch on that a little bit here today, but then really get into it with him tomorrow, as well as a little bit later this week. Going to be talking about some other programming coming back to our air. Well, back or renewed on our air on some of our sister stations as well. We'll have that conversation because, talking about sports, we touched on it a little bit last week when it came to the Sun Bowl and all the fun and kerfuffle that came with that whole situation. And it's something people like to talk about. It's not something I am anywhere near competent enough to do so. So we'll be a little bit of a preview here, if you haven't already seen it yourself, posted online about a return of a show to sister station 13. I mean, it's the studio right over there. So that's some of the stuff we got coming up this week. But of course, let's talk about some of the major topics that we're already getting into this year, and that we have developments going on here today. I listed out a couple of them. Ed Clore saying, yay, we doubled Andrew's salary. Good Lord, I wish that's how this worked. Ed, can I get you to write my next contract? That would be just great. But anyway, we'll definitely be doing a lot more talk here. But no, unfortunately, I don't think that's quite how exactly it works out, at least not at this level. Anyway, so some of the things that I mentioned in our announcement post here for today, some of the top of things on my mind are economics, because all of that kind of sets the pace and page and possibilities for what comes next this year. And again, over in El Paso Inc., they have a pretty good review of some of the major factors already under consideration. We've talked a decent amount, not even just recently, but over the whole past year about it. But there are also more specifics to get into. Also, elections. Top of my mind, if you've ever listened to this show before, you may just know I care just the slightest, ever so slightly, minuscule amount about elections, the impact they have, and what we're actually doing to participate them, or not, as it may come in our area. Often the not, unfortunately. Hoping to turn that around this year, because we have a lot coming up on the ballots plural here, because we're guaranteed at least two, probably more. I will freely admit that I kind of forgot to mention the runoff that was happening at the beginning of last month here in December, because, there was a runoff for the Socorro area. So there's a little bit of election fatigue that can happen in El Paso. It's better than it used to be when we had off-year elections, just more off-year elections, like for the mayoral race, which I'm so glad got standardized, even if we still need to then kick people's butts to actually go out and do that. But other things with the lawsuits still going on, statewide, local redistricting very much and the possibilities, as well as just some pretty contentious races, both locally, statewide, and of course nationally, all of which is going to hit us right here at home. So those are just a couple of the things that are really top of my mind here. Also, housing expansion, because Lord knows, I mean, trying to look at the possibility, even the bare possibility of, oh, what's the market going to look like, and then resisting the urge to burst out crying when trying to think about how to navigate this. It's almost hard to overstate how ridiculous it can be. Like, having talked with people previously and previous guests on the show about how quick offers are going. I mean, people even waiving inspections, willing to accept all the fees just for the ability to even possibly buy a house. It's pretty nuts out there. But there's some interesting perspective from local builders about what might even be coming up this next year, because, again, everything that we've talked about over this past year and beyond about supply chain issues, staffing shortages, the labor market in general has all affected and particularly collides in this one area. So this is, I mean, there's a lot to look forward to this year, but so let's come to some of the top of mind ones we got coming into this year. So not quite a what do we expect from this year kind of show, but there's a lot that's going on at this moment that's going to set up a lot more coming throughout the rest of this year. As we also have Dinosaur commenting in, might have gotten clipped out there, but we're going to comment more as we get further into the show here. So if you're just joining us, this is Talk El Paso. We are doing our first 2-hour show here going through 6 p.m. today. So we're going to take that first break here already. If you're wanting to comment, join in already over on the social page is one of the better places to do it here. John Browson with a good comment. We'll get into you here right after the break here, because we're definitely going to be talking about the show, what we're doing here, as well as the issues that we got going on here. So taking that break right now, coming back, get into more about these. Let's really get into some of the economics things, the situations we got as we starting this year, and what that might foretold for the rest of the year. That's coming up, so don't go anywhere. More Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. It is a new year, and if you're finding your slogan to be New Year, New Me, hey, it's never a bad time to start working on yourself. But something that I reach for and have done and has helped me out in my goals is Clever Tea, Klevrtea, as in the stuff that you drink, locally produced, locally brewed, locally bottled, and locally drunk by myself and others. You can find them online at clevertea.com. That's Klevrtea.com to make your own order, particularly since you can enter the code Radio15 at checkout and get a discount on your next order. They got 3 main blends they're working with right now. The Oolong Wise is the one that I most often drink, but they also got a Kava blend for sleep, as well as a more focus and intensity blend. The new ones that they've got out there, you can go and try for yourself and see what you think. But I also visiting them at their storefront at 230 North Copia. That's basically just south I-10 on Copia. Again, online, best place to find out everything they got, all they're offering, and how to brew it yourself. Clevertea.com. That's Klevrtea.com.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Traffic's getting heavy on the 10 westbound before Mesa Street up to Thorne Avenue. Most of that stretch is stop and go. Zaragoza, south of the I-10 Gateway Boulevard. An injury accident there at Zaragoza and Escobar. I-10 westbound after Mesa, disabled vehicles blocking the right shoulder. A few vehicles off on the right side. Joe Battle Boulevard, south of Montwood at New World Drive. That accident is cleared, and those lanes are back open. Carrie Edwards, El Paso Traffic.
This report is sponsored by DuckDuckGo. Protect your privacy for free with DuckDuckGo.
I feel like I'm being haunted by a pair of headphones. Everywhere I go is a creepy ad for headphones I looked at one time. I hate that feeling like I'm being watched. I downloaded DuckDuckGo and saw a difference right away. Take back your privacy online with DuckDuckGo. Privacy simplified.
If you're tired of big cable bills and want to cut the cord, you can still get Newsmax TV for free. Millions of Americans like you are watching Newsmax. It's available on all major cable systems, or get it free on major streaming platforms. Watch Newsmax on smart TVs like Samsung, LG, Vizio, and more. Find Newsmax on your Hub Guide or use the TV app. Newsmax also streams free on Roku, Xumo, Pluto, Amazon Fire, TiVo, Apple TV, Chromecast, and more. More than 7 million people have downloaded the free Newsmax app on their smartphones. There's no paywall or subscription, so watch Newsmax anytime, anywhere. Forbes calls Newsmax a news powerhouse. And watch great shows with Mike Huckabee, Greg Kelly, Rob Schmidt, Diamond and Silk, Stinchfield, and a lot more. Find out why America is tuning in to Newsmax TV, the fastest growing cable news channel. It's a source you can trust. Newsmax is real news for real people.
iHeartRadio Earth knows small changes can make a big difference. Want to reduce your food waste? Embrace your freezer. From bread to meat and even cheese, most foods can be frozen and cooked later. Plus, a full freezer uses less electricity. Brought to you by iHeartRadio Earth and the National Environmental Education Foundation. To find more tips for smarter, sustainable living or to take action in your own community, go to iHeartRadio.com/Earth.
Every small business owner's most important New Year's resolution is to attract more customers. Let a radio ad from iHeart Ad Builder reach the customers that will make 2022 a successful year. iHeartAdBuilder.com is the fast, affordable way to create a customized ad for your business. Just answer a few questions and get your commercial on the air. Start 2022 off right and put the power of radio to work for your business at iHeartAdBuilder.com.
Why should you volunteer with Meals on Wheels?
I never thought that 5 minutes could make so much difference in the lives of two people, but it has.
Drop off a warm meal and get more than you expect. Volunteer at americaletsdolunch.org. Brought to you by Meals on Wheels America and the Ad Council.
News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Bunch of stuff we're going to be delving into here today as we are debuting our first 2-hour show of the year and, well, period, frankly, because that's what we're doing starting today and going forward, going from 4 to 6 p.m. So thank you for joining us along for the ride, or however you're tuning in on air, online, live streaming, or on the social pages, which we have a lot of interesting comments, is the way I'm going to choose to say it right now, as we have a Calvin Williams joining us right now. And good afternoon to you as well. Nina Dinosaur saying this is nice. Appreciate it. And this is why I call it the Thunderdome of comments here. Louis Panado. Love it when we lose the thread of the arguments and go to diction choices here. So good luck with that. Glad you are seating the argument, I guess, whenever it comes up here. John Brazelton, going to choose to take it as a compliment here, but maybe misremembering what our schedule was here, saying it must be nice to take 2 weeks off during the holidays and then get a promotion. You must think you're Sean Hannity. I do not think I am Sean Hannity. And you may recall, we only took the eves off, as was basically company schedule. Did take a week off well before the holidays, but we're back and in full form and ready to hit the ground running for 2022, as we are in now 2 hours. So no, do not think I'm Sean Hannity, but apparently I need you and Ed to start writing my contracts to maybe get there one day. But no, we ain't quite there yet. But we are still going to be having these conversations about what affects us here in the Borderland. So the one I was kind of teasing a bit before we hit the break there, about some of the economic situations here. Something we focused a lot on, the different aspects of it, the way it has impacted particular local businesses, and that's something as we come into this new year, there's a lot more coming here. John Brazelton asking who's going to be my guest host every time there's a national holiday. We'll address those things as we come to it. All I will say is that there are maybe some job postings if you head over to the iHeartRadio site that you might be interested in, though maybe not a lot of the listeners exactly to this show here, but you might know someone who is. That's all I'm going to say about that at this point. We are looking along with the expanded ability of what we're doing to bring on some additional resources in terms of manpower and such. So that's my simple plug for the job listings that we have going on related to this. But anyway, a good story kind of highlighting this issue and the way I'm thinking about it from our news partners over at KFOX 14. El Paso restaurants face staff shortages, inflations heading into the 2022 due to pandemic. I mean, these issues are not unfamiliar to anyone who has left their house or consumed anything outside of it over the last 2 years now. I felt kind of weird saying it's been 2 years we've been dealing with this. I feel not as awkward about that anymore because really coming up in March, it's definitely going to have been 2 years. But I remember being in news and news adjacent things, particularly working on some of the sports stuff that we were at that point in time, looking at all the shutdowns, the phrase that I grew to hate, abundance of caution, justifying everything that was going on. Though it still is kind of funny when I look back on it, the fact that Wimbledon made out huge because they were about the only sports organization that had bothered to take out essentially insurance that covered shutdowns due to pandemic. So they made more money than they did otherwise. Off topic, I know, but it's been a solid 2 years. I am fully comfortable saying that now. And the roller coaster ride that we have seen in just about any business, ourselves included, frankly, but particularly for restaurants and all of that. We have some commenters who, of course, talk about their own situation, who have called in to talk about it. Specifically in the story, again, from our news partners, talking about the owner of Max in downtown El Paso, Jelaine Uapan, that it's been very hard. And that's a very similar kind of story that we've heard from a lot of other businesses that we've also had on the show ourselves, and what they really need to make it through this. And it really just comes down to patronage, going to them, supporting them, because all of the talk, one that really caught my eye here is that in some of their prices, steak and fish prices have tripled. And that, a lot of people saying, well, I can't wait till we get back to normal. I can't wait till things are done and done with. And I gotta say, I don't see it being likely to be going anywhere. I mean, kind of like a standard deviation curve, right? That smack in the middle be right where we were, that there's the percentiles either way, that it's getting increasingly likely that we're not going to be anywhere near the center of where we used to be in terms of even just percentage-wise. That's going to keep getting weirder, frankly, and also more things changing, such as, remember an article title from The Economist a few years back, probably a better part of a decade, about the end of cheap food prices. And that kind of ended up being a little bit of a peak oil prediction of, well, things have continued on and things and new innovations come online, etc. But this has really been a stress point for supply in general, which is also something we've talked about. But the fact that things just aren't going to be becoming cheap anymore, and the impact on inflation, I mean, this is all connected stuff. That's what, but focusing specifically on the economic impacts of it, it's probably going to be a lot more expensive to dine out for the foreseeable future, or we're going to see places shuttering, but also the staffing issues that come along with it because of the positive pressure, because of inflation on the demand for even that $15, the whole fight for 15 thing that had been going on. It was seemingly getting some steam. I don't really know if it was getting supported, but I was hearing about it more. It did seem like just ahead of the pandemic, and then the pandemic itself, the whole, frontline workers, essential workers, and the bonuses that were there for a little bit and now have pretty much evaporated. All of that has made that even that $15 they're talking about, pretty much, a lot of it's purchasing power, the impact on life. I'm not saying I wouldn't prefer that over $7.50 or $7.25 or whatever the heck it is if I was still in that position, but it's not exactly the delta of it. The change over time is not exactly in the favor of it either. Leroy Chuck saying business owners need to be left alone, that they alone know the best decision that needs to be made for their businesses, not from the local government. I'm not really sure that local government is much of an issue at this point. Will agree with you kind of on their subtext there that I'm picking up anyway, that all the restrictions in place, which also came statewide, if you will recall, frankly, the impact on bars and alcohol-related businesses were some of the worst that happened over the past couple of years, particularly in 2020 proper, when they basically weren't able to open, while other ones were doing, partial reopenings, stage, percentage, that whole situation, or even to go. That just was not available for bars. And like mostly, pubs, a lot of them had to try to change their licenses. So I'll agree with you that those impacts were bad. Not as many of them going forward, even as there has been the discussion between, the city mayor and the county judge. Not as much talk, or really pretty much them saying, no, we are not going to be looking at any further restrictions, anything else being put into place. That doesn't mean that we had a tenuous system coming before that. We had a tenuous supply chain, just-in-time supplies, maximizing efficiency at the cost or not necessarily at the cost, but without regard to just about anything else. Efficiency at all costs. If there's a choice between stability and efficiency, efficiency was chosen. And, well, we're reaping the rewards here right now. Though that might have other impacts here locally, of course. We're looking at now people in trying to gain back some kind of stability, but still with efficiency in the system, looking to not quite reshore, but closer offshore, which is part of the predictions coming out, particularly from El Paso Inc., their article from this past edition of Economic Outlook, cautious optimism heading into 2022, with some familiar names named in that one that you may recognize from previous guests on the show here, and including Tom Fullerton, a UTEP professor of economics, who does put out that border region economic forecast report that I find very useful in looking at what the changes are going to be, as well as Lila Melendez, the CEO of Workforce Solutions Borderplex, that we've got some positive growth in a lot of ways, but issues with wages and supply chain issues that cannot really be affected from the local standpoint are definitely causing a lot of things to be more difficult than it would be if it was just a perfect recovery. I mean, the whole concept of a V-shaped recovery of, oh, we'll see the dip down and then we'll head right back, that got thrown out of the window probably more than a year ago. If I had to guesstimate about when I saw those subtle expectations changing from, oh no, it'll totally go right back. It'll be fine. Don't worry about it. Kind of along the lines of about the time that the 2 weeks to flatten the curve started becoming no longer 2 weeks, if you recall that as well. So the overall, I mean, it's hard to even state overall when it comes to the different and minor parts of the economic situation, but taking it in the micro with restaurants, the people I know, the people I've talked with are still, those that are moving through are doing it with great effort and concerted policies, stuff that they have either figured out or through trial and error managed to come around to be able to continue to operate and move forward. But even those that haven't are basically having to, or they're closing. That's what really comes down to our local institutions. So if I make my personal plea to you in considering how you're going to purchase stuff over this next year, particularly from restaurants, is support what you want to see. Because if you don't, well, any organization, any business, not make any assumptions about, oh, they've been there forever, I'm sure they'll be fine, because I've seen more than a couple of places that I expected to be there forever shutter, and even involving friends and people that I've known before this who were, I thought, pretty good in business and thought they could weather it, end up not being able to do so due to these variety of factors. So if you got a place that you're thinking about that you would like to make sure you see around, maybe do a little bit more, place another order. Don't use the apps is the other thing I will say, because ordering from them directly, make sure they get all of the money. And yeah, I know it's a hassle to drive out and get it, but it's a little bit less concerning for me when I go out to do it, even as we're looking at, a 5.3% unemployment heading into this new year. The staffing, there has not been a local restaurant I have been into lately, even if it is technically a chain, locally owned, whatever. Any restaurant I've been in has had a "we are hiring" sign. And I do mean almost all of them. I'm sure there wasn't 100%, but the majority, probably the vast majority, all are kind of desperate for that at this point, because even if we got people coming back, consumer confidence rebounding, which is half the battle, kind of like knowing, but the other half is making sure they got enough people involved to be able to do the work, do what they need. And so that's one of the factors coming into this new year that I am very interested in keeping an eye on and making sure I'm trying to support the places, because, well, we'll get more into this next segment here, as we're already overdue for a break here, frankly, getting into some more of the circumstances. Let's talk a little bit more about statewide coming back from the break, particularly as we're looking at the evolving situation when it comes to coronavirus, particularly what the governor is talking about. So that more after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned. Something you can do to get yourself a little bit of peace of mind as we are headed into this new year is knowing where to go if you do find yourselves in those situations of those day disruptors needing to go out and do something, particularly as we got businesses and companies looking at new policies this year. The Upper Valley Urgent Care Center, 121 East Red Road, is there and available for you. I had a chance to stop by there myself just to say hi and thank them for being a sponsor of our show here. And the demand is pretty great out there, but they do a good job of keeping things moving with 20-plus exam rooms. Dr. Carpenter and his team are ready for you with fast and friendly 5-star medical treatment for minor medical emergencies all the way up to x-ray capabilities. Plus, testing, vaccines, flu shots, even all of that is available daily, not even just Monday through Friday, but every day of the week, 7 days a week, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., 121 East Red Road, Upper Valley Urgent Care Center.
El Paso's News Radio, 690 KTSM.
With your CBS 4 News update, I'm Amanda Guillen. Taking a look at the latest COVID-19 report for El Paso County on Sunday, we saw no additional deaths added to our total, but 155 new cases of the virus were reported. Now, at last check, 362 patients are being hospitalized with the virus, 111 of which are under intensive care today. El Paso police say a case they were investigating as a crash in Vinton over the weekend is now being looked into by their Crimes Against Persons unit. That means there could have been foul play involved. The call came in at around 1 a.m. on New Year's Day. Now, the video of where the person was hit by the vehicle is very, very telling. You can see that on our website, cbs4local.com. Now, information is very limited at this time, but as more becomes available, you can count on us to bring you the latest. That has been your CBS 4 News Update. I'm Amanda Guillen.
News Radio 690. Traffic all day.
Got fire responding to an accident Gateway Boulevard at Paisano Drive. I-10 westbound after Mesa all the way up to Thorne. It's stop-and-go traffic. Saul Kleinfeld north of Edgemere at Bell Tower Drive. We got an accident reported there. You could take George Dieter as an alternate. And we got police and fire on the scene of an accident in Zaragoza south of the I-10 gateway at Escobar. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, this is Chief Meteorologist Sandra Diaz. Looks like our work week is turning out to be a little quieter as well as a little warmer. So look for a gradual increase in our temperatures as we see the return of temperature highs in the 60s. Meanwhile, those overnight lows still looking bitterly cold. We will see another weather pattern change, but not until the weekend. So until then, enjoy.
This report is sponsored by Jackson Hewitt. Get your biggest refund guaranteed. Jackson Hewitt Tax Pros will help find thousands worth of new tax credits so you get every dollar you deserve. So why wait? Schedule an appointment with one of their tax pros and learn more at jacksonhewitt.com.
It's your friend Sean Hannity, and with the election on the horizon, well, you've got a lot of important choices ahead of you. But let's not talk politics for just a second and focus on your home. I'm going to make this very easy for you and tell you the one agent whose marketing plan is in a whole different league than anyone else you will talk to. I'm talking about Brian Birds, brokered by eXp Realty. Now, Brian services the entire El Paso area, attracts hundreds of buyers every week, and sells hundreds of homes a year. Now, because of that, if he can't sell your home at a price and deadline that you agree to, he'll buy it himself. He offers you a one-day listing agreement. If after one day he doesn't live up to his end of the contract, guess what? You can fire him and pay nothing. Call the only agent I would call in El Paso. Call Brian Birds right now at 751-1500. That's 751-1500, or online at brianbirds.com. That's brianbirds, BURDS.com. Go there and you can start packing.
Talk El Paso, airing weekdays at 4 right here on News Radio 690 KTSM, focused on local businesses, local politics, local impacts of the day's news. Brought to you in part by Thrive 915 Food Fest. Join the conversation Monday through Friday at 4, and let's talk El Paso.
I bought football tickets for my husband's birthday, and now I'm in a football bubble. All I see online are articles and ads about football. I hate feeling manipulated. I downloaded DuckDuckGo and saw a difference right away. Take back your privacy online with DuckDuckGo. Privacy simplified.
This report is sponsored by DuckDuckGo. Protect your privacy for free with DuckDuckGo.
Always just minutes away from the latest news around town and around the world.
You need to know what's going on.
News Radio 690 KTSM. El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social pages we're on these days, including Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. Facebook is primarily the main one there, particularly the page facebook.com/Talk El Paso. It's the real Thunderdome of comments here, as we got Louis Pinato really just binging on the haterade, but otherwise Edgar Ortiz, Leroy, Chuck, John Browson, Calvin Williams, Nina Nassar, and more tuning in. Edgar Ortiz, if I didn't say that one already, as we're having the conversation about the things that affect us here in El Paso. Question came up about calls for 2 hours. We'll still probably keep it to about one per day, kind of as the standard we do here. So forgot to mention at the end of last segment, but we will go ahead and start taking those calls here as we do. But got a lot to get through in these couple of hours here, starting the top of the year. So a couple of articles we mentioned from our news partners. Calvin Williams saying, accurately so, I believe, saying, because of us, this page rules. I mean, yeah, that's the Skeptic Squad over at facebook.com/Talk El Paso, where you're very unlikely to find a lot of agreement on any subject, but I always appreciate the discussion. Anyway, so if you do want to call in, we'll go ahead and open up those lines here. The number to do so, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. Remember to get that 915 in there, as we are now on that all-digits numbering dialing system here. That happened middle of last year, towards the end of last year. I don't remember exactly when it happened, but just make sure to get that 915 in there if you got anything on speed dial. So talking a lot about the economic issues coming into this next year. I mean, restaurants still, I haven't not ever exactly thought, you know, it would be great opening a restaurant, even if I like the idea of cooking or being involved in it. I've never done food service myself. I'll knock on wood and thank my lucky stars that I haven't had to. Did other, out of high school and odd jobs in college. Well, that's not exactly true. I did do some short order grill work back in college, but still not exactly like mainstream restaurant. I will not count myself as having that experience because I don't think I deserve it. Them still taking it kind of in the shorts from all of these situations. One of the other issues that hits a little bit more close home personally, I will say, is the whole housing issue and everything going on with it. If you haven't been aware and have been able to be blissfully unaware, well, let's put it this way. What has gone on with our taxes locally? We had the two major taxing indices, or at least the one that people, whinge about the most, of the city and the county, both announced in their own ways that they were going to not have more taxes required this year. If that sounds complicated, because it is, unfortunately, a little bit more, the city, of course, announced that they're going to be doing basically a revenue neutral, no tax increase this year. But, I mean, with home valuations going up, brings me to the second point. The county more specifically said revenue neutral budget, no changes coming to that. And in doing so, to affect that, they actually lowered the tax rate. Literally the first time in my lifetime, or at the very least in my professional time, having paid attention to these kind of things and been a concerned voter, etc., knowing that the taxes had gone down for any particular entity in the county, much less the county itself. So, but again, I understand here, they literally lowered the tax rate, but are still bringing in the same amount of money because valuations went up so much on their own this year. So even at keeping taxes flat, you would still be looking at more on your tax bill. And even if you're only renting, you best believe that that cost is still coming to you. So even saying that, oh, well, it only affects homeowners and not renters, that's not how that works, because, of course, rental properties still have valuations and still have property taxes going on them. And given that property taxes are how every government agency in the state, and I do mean the entire state, gets its revenue outside of like sales tax, but I'm not as worried about that in this particular circumstance. That's what it all comes from. You may recall a few years back when the then Western Refining, now Marathon, that whole facility, they fought their valuation, and that led to a drop in various local entities' budgets by literal hundreds of thousands of dollars, including the city, school districts, etc. Well, the one school district that encompassed it. That's how significant this part is and why it's worth mentioning. So valuations have gone up. And again, if you've even dipped a toe into the retail real estate market right now, it's a little nuts. Again, I'm a little scared about once I finally decide, all right, will do it, as opposed to just looking at listings, see how the circumstances is going, and feeling like you're a little bit like you're reading a horror novel. Once I actually get into it, I make no promises about my coherence as a human being in those shows, because that's probably going to take up most of my brain processing power at that time. But point is that prices have gone up. Inventory is just super low. I feel like it's never been like great in El Paso because of all the demands, both in, transient populations turning over regularly from Fort Bliss and the like, and also people coming through. I mean, we've seen growth, though not as much, which is also another subject that is going to relate to that going on later on when it comes to the city redistricting. Yeah, you didn't think we were done with redistricting, did you? Nope, unfortunately. Leroy Chuck saying we are skeptically correct. In case there's any confusion about when I say skeptic or the way I intend it, I use it as a somewhat tongue-in-cheek but overall positive, because, it's fine to believe in things. It's fine to say, I accept these things as true. But before I get to that point myself, personally anyway, I'm usually pretty skeptical about, okay, you're saying this, but what are the realities? What proves that? What shows that to be true? It's the way I go about it. Anyway, so I take skepticism as kind of my natural course of order there in coming to how I figure out what we believe and also what we talk about on the show. So that's the way I think about it anyway. So sure, you can be skeptically correct. It's often correct to be skeptical is another way to put it. So the housing situation in our region has been crunched because it's always an interesting confluence between what the expectations are of our region, particularly from outside of the region, and that we have going on here on our own. It happened half a decade ago at this point, maybe a little bit less, that there was construction going on over in the Santa Teresa area where they have that overweight cargo zone. They were out of space for Class A, basically, warehousing. So there was significant demand out there, but the 30,000-foot view of our area looked like, oh, well, there's an overabundance of warehouse space. And that's because the former Hoover plants out there, basically I-10 and Trans Mountain on what we now call the Northwest side, was making it look like there was way too much space available in our market. So no one was willing to come in and build. Now, that is probably a little bit of a factor here, but of course we have our own microcosm of local builders who are very much interested in building out there that has had some kerfuffle with local governments, particularly El Paso City Council in the past, I seem to recall most of, when it comes to really wanting to push further and further east and northeast and now northwest. But the real issues is, again, El Paso Link, another good article about that here. Hank, particularly in the focus of one builder, Hake's brothers charge ahead with home construction despite all the challenges that come with it. A lot of, frankly, similar situations that are going on with the restaurant industry. You got to think about it. Labor and supply are what it takes to build a house. And those are the two things that are still really jacked up at this point. Because being able to get the parts in, I mean, there was that real stark example of the whole Suez Canal blocked ship that there was someone actually thought who was trying to get in cabinets for their house, and they were like, I am pretty damn sure that my parts are either on that ship or one of the ones being held up on it. But that was just kind of a highlighted example of an overarching issue that has been going on better part of this past year, at the very least. Not quite the whole 2 years of this continuing pandemic emergency, quote unquote, but it takes a lot more to get this going again than just saying, all right, we're done, we got the supply. Because take a trip down to Home Depot and just see what you can get, how much a doghouse would cost you. That's a pretty good economic indicator I feel like we should start using, given how much lumber prices and all the associated construction materials have gone up. How much does it take year over year to build just a standard run-of-the-mill, white picket fence style doghouse that you would expect to see in, every version of the American dream? They do it with a 12 Days of Christmas every year. I feel like we should work on this one, which is a funny thing to look at if you haven't. They literally price out what it would cost to hire, buy, produce, etc., all the gifts on the 12 Days of Christmas song, 5 golden rings, geese a-laying, which is just the meanest present you could give someone. I don't know if you've ever dealt with geese, but they're mean to begin with. But then, particularly if they're laying and they're territorial, oh, you got the closest thing you're going to get to a modern-day raptor. And it does not obey man nor God in its rage. So just don't do it is what I'm saying. But in all of this, we're looking at, for the home buying, there is some expectation of expansion, probably nowhere near the rate of what we have seen in our area. But, I mean, there's just so much demand, and the demand keeps going up itself. We'll probably keep seeing some movement there, but don't expect to be looking bargain basement anytime soon is what it comes down to, and why I'm, again, crying on the inside. We're going to take the next break right now. Coming back from the break, we're going to get to some of those calls. Got a couple come up here now, but that number to call if you want to, as we will be doing the last segment of this hour and going into the next hour, doing our first 2-hour show of the year and ever, as we are now in 2 hours for 2022. Back after this moment, we'll talk El Paso.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Got a new crash, Joe Battle Boulevard at Edgemere with police and fire on the scene. Gateway Boulevard at Paisano, an accident reported there. Another crash reported Gateway Boulevard west of Airway at Buffalo Soldier. Fire is on the scene there. And it's slow and go, I-10 westbound after Mesa up to Thorne. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Friday Health Plans. Friday Health Plans is designed for people who buy their own health insurance with benefits like unlimited $0 primary care and mental health visits in person and online. Friday is insurance you can afford to use. Financial aid available. Get a quote at FridayHealthPlans.com.
iHeartRadio Earth is here with little tips for a healthier planet. It sure feels good to step into a warm car after letting it heat up for a few minutes. However, this practice wastes gas, increases emissions, and pollutes the air. Limit idling your car to no more than 3 minutes to save money at the gas station and improve air quality. Brought to you by iHeartRadio Earth and the National Environmental Education Foundation. To find more tips for smarter, sustainable living, or to take action in your own community, go to iHeartRadio.com/Earth.
Now may be the perfect time to buy a home financed by Loan Depot. Loan Depot has over 300 loan products to help you make home ownership a reality. Interest rates are near historic lows. Rates will not stay low forever. So call 866-888-LOAN so one of our thousands of loan officers can help you find the right loan. Call 866-888-LOAN or visit loandepot.com. Loan Depot. Rates are subject to change. Equal housing opportunity lender. NMLS number 174457. Licensed in all 50 states.
I feel like I'm being haunted by a pair of headphones. Everywhere I go is a creepy ad for headphones I looked at one time. I hate that feeling like I'm being watched. I downloaded DuckDuckGo and saw a difference right away. Take back your privacy online with DuckDuckGo. Privacy simplified.
Veterans, are you planning to file a VA disability claim? Get ready for a better way to file. The Decision Ready Claim Program gets you a decision within 30 days after it's submitted. That's just 30 days for the benefits and services you've earned. Talk to your accredited representative or go to www.benefits.va.gov/DRC to learn more. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs.
With an open channel,
I guess just try to keep channels open.
We welcome open-minded individuals.
I try to keep an open mind to all issues.
With open arms.
I think we need to always have our eyes open.
For open conversation. And when you open the iHeartRadio app, you open a whole new world. Wherever you are.
What should America do about immigration crisis?
I guess open the borders, but at the same time, check everyone that's coming in.
Open the gates.
A free download in the App Store or at ktsmradio.com. News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. A lot of ways that you can participate in the show. Comment, chime in, tune in, be it all the various ways we're out these days, on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app and on the various social pages here. When you got a lot of people already chiming in, Skeptic Squad and Thunderdome comments in full effect here. Edgar Ortiz, Louis Pinato, Calvin Williams, and more chiming in most recently. Chiming in for a lot of things. John Browson a little bit earlier and more. So if you want to do it, if you're welcome to just tune in and participate in that way. But if you really want to comment and have your thoughts on there, more than welcome to. And that's why we do have those phone lines open here. Last segment of this hour. But again, we're doing 2 hours today and going forward. So we'll be back next hour as well. But if you want to call in, that number to do so, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. interesting comment here from Calvin Williams saying that when a business pays you more, yes, you pay more in taxes, but don't forget that the business still matches those taxes. So it's easy to say that they can afford to pay $15 an hour. Yeah, it's always been a little bit tricky when it's saying, oh, they should be able to do it here. I mean, I'm not opposed to people making more money. And I think some of the arguments about, and then prices will skyrocket, fall a little bit flat for me in implementation. It just kind of doesn't happen that way. Particularly when we got businesses doing, maximum amount of profits. Jeff Bezos. If I disappear tomorrow, you know why. But also making demands on individual businesses because sure, you may think, oh, the big guys can take, but then, of course, the little guys are then sometimes left. If standing, it's because they were in between the tire treads and just happened to not get hit. So I'm finding myself conflicted about it. If you have a business and you want to do it yourself, more power to you. And I think that it'll probably be a net benefit to you in the long run of being able to get better talents and have more retention of people. I think businesses often do overlook that your first investment and your first customers are your own people, your own employees. So I think there's a lot of work to be done there. But as I said, getting to those calls here right now, Edgar, to you saying more specifically, I own a restaurant. 15 an hour sounds great, but trust me, it's not as easy as it sounds. I wholeheartedly believe you that it's not as easy as it sounds here. But into a couple calls before we hit that break for the top of the hour. We do have Raul in the Northeast here with us right now. Raul, thanks for joining us.
Hey, Andrew. I saw the reports about the Colorado wildfires.
Ooh,
wow. I feel sorry for those folks and for all the folks who've lost homes and businesses and schools and have been and will be destroyed by Mother Earth, responding to the poisons that the fossil fuels industry and the plutocrats who own it have and are dumping in everybody's atmosphere. And as you know, Andrew, we're pretty lucky here in El Paso to be free of catastrophic and extremely damaging weather events like those tornadoes and hurricanes and floods and wildfires. But history has plenty of examples of civilizations in the past that have collapsed because of their abuse of the environment and of the wealthy minorities in those societies who own the economic system and control the political systems with the best politicians money can buy. And now that Mother Nature has wreaked all this widespread and deadly damage to the United States, whose job is it to come to the rescue? The free market? Relatives? Churches? The fossil fuel plutocrats? The only organization that has the resources and the ability to help in such catastrophes is the government, specifically the federal government. Hey guys, socialism. Only Uncle Sam has these kinds of resources paid by us taxpayers, and I don't have any problem using our taxes for helping these folks instead of helping dictators throughout the world. And this includes fighting these once-in-a-lifetime pandemics. To have thrown it at the states, they don't have the resources to do that. This is something that the federal government has to be involved in. And while in El Paso we don't suffer from those severe damaging weather events being caused by global climate change, ozone pollution in El Paso exceeds federal standards. In 2020, we had 126 days of elevated air pollution, the second most in Texas. And that's according to a report by the Environmental Texas Policy Center. And at the end of 2020, El Paso ranked number 4 for bad air in comparison to other mid-sized metros. And we ranked 19th for bad air out of 300 U.S. cities with poor air quality. And consequently, this year, the county may be downgraded from marginal to moderate non-attainment, which would trigger higher and tighter regulations for the sources of these ozone pollution. A couple of weeks, actually several weeks ago, my wife and I were headed south on the freeway and noticed a huge flame and plume of smoke coming from the flare tower that was Western Refinery. And as it is, the air was already dirty that day, and here we have more pollution added by this plant. We don't need a huge, dirty, polluting refinery in the middle of El Paso, surrounded by 3 million people. The owners of that refinery need to be taxed or fined by the city of El Paso and the county of El Paso to raise the money necessary to move their plant far, far out of town. Thank you.
I think that you brought up a lot there, but I think particularly that last point, the unintended consequences that would come from that would be more than I think you or anyone else would be willing to bear. Sure, I'm not exactly happy about active pollution and things like that. But also, let's be honest that that plant, even given the size of it is not the majority or even anywhere near the only significant portion of what we see here. I mean, even though radio signals may be, as they're measured, stop at the border, of course, pollution doesn't. And I mean, ever since I came up, the Juarez flu, the heat inversions, I saw it driving around over the weekend of what comes from across the border. So sure, do what's right on our side and maybe ask for some concessions to be made, rather be done voluntarily than be required because of the implications that come from that. But let's not fool ourselves that we got that going on here. At the same time, do want to say that we may not have some of the catastrophes that other parts of even our own state see from weather. We still have been seeing, I mean, you got to remember over the summer when we had those rains that caused the beautiful bloom of wildflowers and such, but it also caused some serious issues for roads, including right in front of our station here. I think there is some, whatever you may think about climate change, the implications, the realities, whether it's man-made or not, is almost immaterial to me at this point, because if we're not going to be thinking about, okay, if things are changing, what reactions do we need to make? If only it comes down to, at least at this point, no longer using loose rock as a mainstay of landscaping so that roads continue to be passable. That's kind of a low and petty end of it, I will concede. But I think that there's some short-sightedness going on here. But thank you for the call. We're going to go ahead and take that break for the bottom of the hour here. So stay tuned. We are going to be coming back after this hour, taking more calls on the line. And oh, I love the comments. We'll get into that and a whole lot more coming back after this break. But remember to stay tuned. We are going into hour 2 of the show here as we are starting that for 2022. So if you want to call on the line, and we'll get to you coming back out of the top of the hour break. Number to call 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. Stay tuned. Back with more Talk El Paso after this break. See you soon.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Got a crash at Joe Battle southbound at the Edgemere on-ramp. Police fire on the scene. Got an injury accident, Gateway Boulevard west of Airway at Buffalo Soldier. Another accident reported, Gateway Boulevard at Paisano Drive. And it's slow and go traffic on the I-10 westbound after Mesa up to Thorne. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
Attend the Las Cruces Gun Show this weekend, January 8th and 9th at the Las Cruces Convention Center, 680 East University Ave in Las Cruces. See dealers selling the finest in modern guns, antique guns, custom knives, ammo, Old West collectibles, reloading supplies, and much more. Buy, sell, and trade at the Las Cruces Gun Show this weekend, January 8th and 9th, Las Cruces Convention Center, 680 East University in Las Cruces. Get $2 off. Go to azgunradio.com. Parking is free.
Tweens have mastered the art of tuning out. Jen, there's a spider in the car. We're turning your room into a home gym. See? Nothing. But some messages need to get through, like making sure they're buckled up the whole ride, every time. Do whatever it takes to make your child listen. Jen, I friended your boyfriend.
Wait, what?
Buckle up, sweetie.
Never give up until they buckle up. Learn more at safercar.gov/kidsbuckleup. A message from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Next Thursday, you will be caught in an extreme flash flood.
Disasters don't plan ahead, but you can. Talk to your loved ones about making an emergency plan. Get started today at ready.gov/plan. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
The most current and comprehensive. Just minutes away at the top and bottom of the hour. News on and the always hour online. And the hat. Traffic and weather all day. News Radio 690 is KTSM AM El Paso, an iHeart radio station.
NBC News Radio, I'm Brian Shook. Over 103,000 people in the U.S. are hospitalized with COVID-19. That's according to the latest data from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. It's the first time the number has been in six figures since last September. The CDC reports the majority of those needing care are those who haven't gotten their COVID shots, as the agency says hospitalization rates are about 8 times higher for unvaccinated adults and 10 times higher for kids who haven't gotten their shots. 2 Republican senators are urging the Health and Human Services Secretary to detail the department's strategy to increase COVID-19 testing. Lisa Taylor reports.
Senators Roy Blunt of Missouri and Richard Burr of North Carolina criticized the testing shortage, noting that Congress has appropriated over $80 billion in funding since 2020 for testing. With long testing lines from the newest Omicron surge, the senators are demanding a detailed account of how taxpayer funding is being used.
The Senate is delaying its first vote in 2022 because of a winter storm slamming the nation's capital. The body had a vote scheduled for the nomination of Gabriel Sanchez as a judge in the Ninth Circuit. It will instead take place tomorrow. In addition, there was no daily press briefing at the White House, as it was also canceled because of the weather. There are growing reports of illegal immigrants caught at the Texas border with Mexico who are on the terror watch list. Republican Congressman Tony Gonzalez was told recent encounters involved men from Syria and Egypt.
Every week, literally every week, Border Patrol agents are catching folks on the terrorist watch list.
Earlier this month, the Border Patrol in Yuma reported they arrested a potential terrorist who had crossed the border into Arizona. A member of the International Olympic Committee says it's possible the Beijing Winter Olympics could be scrapped because of COVID-19. You're listening to the latest from NBC News Radio. The number of coronavirus hospitalizations in New York State is now reaching the highest level since early in the pandemic. Scott Pringle reports.
There are now more than 9,500 COVID-related hospitalizations statewide. That number passes the high of last winter's surge. Governor Kathy Hochul says it's no surprise coming off the holidays.
And what happens when humans gather? They spread the virus. And we fully anticipate, on top of the surge that's already been ongoing, that there's going to be another wave that's occurring as a result of these holidays.
Hochul does not think a true decline in the surge will happen until after the Super Bowl. The state projects Omicron now represents 95% of the cases, a month after Hochul announced the first detected case of the new strain.
Texas officials are releasing the final death toll from last year's winter storm. The Department of State Health Services says 246 people died in 77 counties as a result of the freezing weather in February. According to the report from the department's disaster mortality surveillance unit, almost 2/3 of the deaths were caused by hypothermia. Police in the Florida Panhandle are reporting a rare sight.
A deputy with the Okaloosa County Sheriff's Office captured snow flurries falling in the parking lot of a home improvement store in Fort Walton Beach.
It's snowing. Snow.
In a social media post, police noted a dramatic swing in temperatures going from 75 degrees Sunday afternoon to snow early Monday. The snow didn't stick to the ground and quickly melted. I'm Rick Hoschel.
Researchers are reporting the discovery of dinosaur footprints on a beach in Wales. Paleontologists at London's Natural History said the footprints date back to the Triassic period, which makes them around 200 million years old. The presence of toe impressions and the spacing between the tracks indicated to researchers that they were made by an animal. The findings could reveal more information about how dinosaurs walked and traveled in herds. Brian Shook, NBC News Radio.
This report is sponsored by Allstate. Looking to save money this year? Look at Allstate. You can get the protection you need at the low rate you want. With Allstate, you can lower your rates, not your expectations. Visit allstate.com or call an agent for a quote today.
El Paso Children's Hospital is turning 10 years old this Valentine's Day, and we're having a birthday party. We're celebrating 10 years of pediatric specialists. 10 years of families staying in El Paso for care. Plus, we'll unveil the first ever El Paso Children's Hospital mascots. That's right, 2 very special friends will become our new ambassadors in the community. Visit elpasochildrens.org and learn about our birthday events. El Paso Children's Hospital, 10 years of wonder.
If your New Year's resolution includes getting into shape, make step 1 downloading the free iHeartRadio app. Whether your goal is balancing mind and body or ramping up the intensity to beast mode, we've got the music to get you moving and keep you motivated with dozens of specially curated workout playlists, from rock pump up to yoga music. Just put your headphones on and tap playlists to get started on reaching your goals. iHeart. Discover music, radio, and podcasts you'll love.
iHeartRadio.
Titans go! When the Teen Titans go to the movies, they know the best way to travel is safely.
Hollywood, here we come!
Budget! And you know it's super. To keep your child safe, be sure to use the right car seat for their age and size.
Exactly. We're finally on the big screen.
Have a seat, my dude. For more information on finding the right seat, visit nhtsa.gov/the right seat.
Gotcha. That's a wise move.
Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Teens in foster care will love you, even if you don't know the lingo.
Dad bod. Noun. The result of the occasional donut, always washed down with confidence.
Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council. Visit adoptuskids.org.
News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social pages that we're on, where we do a full video stream as well. Happy to be along here for you for the start of this new year and the start of our second hour. That is right, Talk El Paso has moved to now 2 hours, 4 to 6 p.m., Monday through Friday. So, if you're just joining us, thank you for tuning in. If you're still sticking with us, definitely happy to have you along with us as we discuss the things that affect us here in the Borderland. You have those phone lines open now, probably through the end of the hour here. So that number to do so, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. A lot to talk about here today. We've touched a bit on some of the economics, both from various kinds of businesses, primarily when it comes to restaurants, because it's been a focus of mine this past year, and the people I know and people I've met who have been involved in them, as well as the housing situation and a whole lot more of what's going to be coming from it. This hour, talking a bit more also about some of the election stuff that's coming on, because, campaign season was already on, but now that we are getting close to the primaries, those little things, it's even going to go only ramp up that much more. So we'll be talking all about here that. So again, Happy New Year to you all out there. I got a nice graphic for you, pulled off of the interwebs to celebrate the start of this new year, the start of our 2 hours in 2022. And for the picture there for you as well. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about the issues going on. If you want to call in, that number to do so, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. Some interesting comments going by so far from the Skeptic Squad. Edgar Ortiz had said about his time in running a business, currently a restaurant. Calvin Williams saying, I feel for you. The restaurant business is probably one of the toughest to pull off here. There was a question about certain people calling in. We'll still be taking about one call a day from anyone, frankly. If you want to leave your comment, you're more than welcome to, but calls, we'll keep it to one for the day here. But some very interesting points being made, including have the previous caller ever heard of Juarez? And also a good point that Edgar Ortiz made, that refinery being referred to there in our last call has been there before anything else was around it. It was kind of like the Asarco situation in a different way, that it was built out in the boonies at the time, and then the city has grown up around it. So, John Brazelton also making a great suggestion that we are not going to follow here because of the reasons you just put up, saying, suggesting a guest host. So there's the right one. That it would be the new Joe Pine station would lead the nation in profanity fines by the FCC. Yeah, I think we'll just smooth past that one here, but also suggestions of taking a skateboard to lunch here. I mean, there's a lot of stuff to talk about, but stepping into some more calls right now. Again, that number to do so, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. We do have Andrew on the west side with us right now. Andrew, thanks for joining us.
Yes, thank you. I need to respond to Raul. People of his ilk seem to think that the federal government is going to solve every issue. But let me remind him and others, about several days ago, Biden said that there's no federal solution to the pandemic. It's the states. It's up to the states. Now, as for the refinery, moving it somewhere else, you still have to get rid of all the apparatuses around there. And can you imagine the cost in jobs to the city of El Paso and El Paso County and the surrounding areas? And then he always seems to knock or blame fossil fuels. Well, just to remind him and others, over 6,000 products come as a result of petrochemicals, to include, and I say to include, those little syringes that they use to inject the COVID-19 vaccine. So that's food for thought, guys.
No, those are important issues there, definitely. And yeah, okay, I think there's also kind of a misconception underneath the whole idea of moving the refinery. Like, sure, sounds great in concept if you could wave your hand and make it happen, but in reality, that being an endeavor is, it's almost hard to overstate how difficult that would be. But also, that land wouldn't then just be magically available. Could do something else with it as well. Taking, for example, what happened with the rail yards just outside downtown that used to have, dozens of lines kind of parallel to each other that have mostly been removed. Mostly that capacity was moved out to the Santa Teresa intermodal out there. But the point being that land, you would think, we could develop it. Railroads do their own weird thing. They literally have their own police. And basically, railroads are their own level of government in Texas and across most of the country. More specifically, they wouldn't even want that land to be developed because what's there is probably technically under remediation status, meaning that because of exposure to chemicals, diesel dumps, that kind of things that had happened over the centuries that those facilities have existed in one form or another, means that land probably wouldn't be able to be used. I'm basing my assumptions here off of a very similar situation over at the former Asarco site, that land could not be used for anything regarding that for decades, maybe my lifetime, if literally ever. So, again, it's almost a laughable endeavor to consider that as a reasonable choice that may be happening, not even to mention what would happen to the serious economic impact of that facility no longer having the jobs or the capability, because let's be honest, you're not just going to be able to just pick it up, move it, and put it like outside of town. You're not going to be able to do the take our problem and push it over here meme status with this. It's going to go somewhere else entirely, probably Gulf Coast, maybe somewhere that offers it better tax incentives. It's here because it's been here, not because it moved here. So there's a whole lot of messed up assumptions that would have a whole lot of unintended consequences that, again, make it almost not worth entertaining when it comes down to it, really.
It would take hundreds of millions of dollars to dismantle that refinery and move it elsewhere. It'll probably go overseas to where some other country doesn't have the regulations, and they really don't give a rat's butt about polluting the environment.
I'm not saying that I like pollution. Do not get me wrong there, but again, the doctrine of unintended consequences has been way too pervasive in a whole lot of the things done by this country, including the federal government, over many, many, many years. So it's, yeah, I'm glad we have jobs. That's what I guess is the silver lining for me.
Well, no jobs, no investments. Anyway, you have a good evening.
Yeah, you too as well, and a Happy New Year.
Likewise.
All right. We'll take some more calls on the line here. Actually due for our next break. So if you want to call in, that number to do so is 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. Oh, God. We'll get more of the comments here after the break as well. Facebook page as well. And the number to call, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. More of the second hour of Talk El Paso coming up after this break. Stay tuned. Help take control of your health and stay on top of some of the latest medical innovations by tuning in every Saturday at noon to the Medical Hackers with Dr. Sandeep Rao, board-certified vascular interventionalist, right here on News Radio 690 KTSM. He helps you navigate our complex medical system with healthcare hacks and insights on treatments for common medical problems. Hacks, not in the illegal sense, but in the life hack sense. In this case, helping you have a better, deeper understanding so you can better advocate for yourself when it comes to being a consumer of medical services, which we all are at some point or another. You can even submit your own questions to him by emailing rao@medicalhackers.com. That's his last name, RAO@medicalhackers.com. And again, tune in this coming Saturday at noon, right after the El Paso History Radio Show here on News Radio 690 KTSM.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Got a crash at Joe Battle southbound at the Edgemere on-ramp. Police fire on the scene. Got an injury accident Gateway Boulevard west of Airway at Buffalo Soldier. Another accident reported Gateway Boulevard at Paisano Drive, and it's slow and go traffic on the I-10 westbound after Mesa up to Thorne. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Indeed.com. If New Year calls for more hiring, check out Indeed, the all-in-one hiring platform that makes it easy to attract, screen, and interview candidates all in one place. Sponsor your first job post today after visiting Indeed.com/credit.
What happens if we find the home we want, but somebody else just got to it quicker? What if we can't sell our existing home on time and we get stuck with 2 mortgages? I know. I've been there, and I have a solution. Listen carefully. You just need to call Brian Birds of eXp Realty. He'll guarantee your home will sell on time, or he's going to buy it himself. You'll get the home you want, and you don't have to worry about getting stuck with a burden of 2 mortgages. Hundreds of home sellers and renters trust Brian, and you can trust him as well. Connect personally with Brian today at 751-1500. That's 751-1500. Or go to brianbirds.com. That's Brian, BURDS.com.
Hey, El Paso, have you heard? To sell your home, guarantee. Call Brian Birds. Go to brianbirds.com.
iHeartRadio Earth knows small changes make a big difference for the environment. Did you know that keeping your tires even a single PSI lower than recommended means worse mileage and more trips to the pump? So do the environment and your wallet a favor and always check the tire pressure. Brought to you by iHeartRadio Earth and the National Environmental Education Foundation. To find more tips on smarter, sustainable living or to take action in your own community, go to iHeartRadio.com/Earth.
Mass Mutual knows retirement can be an uncomfortable conversation.
Who's the big boy?
You are.
Who's going to take care of us when we retire?
It's gonna be you.
You're going to make sure we don't end up in a retirement home.
Or if we do, it's a really nice one.
With tango lessons.
And bocce ball.
And a community pool. Oh.
Talk to us about retirement today. Feel comfortable about tomorrow. Mass Mutual. Live Mutual.
KTSM AM El Paso is News Radio 690, an iHeart radio station.
Donna from Louisiana. The storm just hit, and we went from donating to the food bank to needing it.
Hunger is a story we can end. End it at feedingamerica.org. Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso in our second hour, starting today, going forward, of local discussion, local issues, the local things that we here in the Borderland care about, and no one else is going to have the discussion like we do. So if you want to call on the show, that number to do so, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. A lot of comments going on here. John Brausleton saying it's too bad that Mother Nature didn't dump 80 feet of snow on Washington, D.C. I mean, it can be pretty well shut down by a lot less than that, but I don't necessarily disagree with your sentiments. Yeah, it's been good times in our 2 weeks of weather we're having here. Actually, I had the heater on in the office today. We usually don't need to do that, but hey, it's the 2 weeks of winter we get in this part of the country. So, doing this 2-hour thing, talking about the issues affecting us here in the Borderland. A lot of ways to tune in, chime in, participate. Again, that phone number, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. Right now, we do have John over on the east side with us right now. John, thanks for joining us.
Hey there.
Hey there. What's on your mind?
Well, you made very good points with regard to the refinery. It was there a long time before, most of us have ever even lived in this town.
Mm-hmm.
But the remediation costs of that land to recoup the land, and not to mention, when they're burning off those tail gases, they're really not creating pollution; they're reducing it. And the last thing is, we share a whole bunch of air with the across-the-border people that burn tires at night to keep warm. And there's nothing that we can do about that.
That's very true. I mean, you can see it driving around sometimes, as I have within the past week. Particularly, I think we had one of those heat inversion days that then just traps all that crud down here. I mean, growing up, if you had the sniffles, half the time it would be called the what-is flu because of the contribution of that particular part you're talking about and the people who have those activities going on to the air quality that we experience here. I mean, there's been a halfway joke, because I feel like some people were more serious than not, of, yeah, we totally need to install wind turbines at UTEP, but facing south and blowing that way to do something with that. I mean, not feasible in any way, shape, or form, but still the sentiment exists that, yeah, that's a serious part of our air quality in the area.
Well, Happy New Year to you, sir, and you have a good evening.
Happy New Year to you as well. Thanks for the call there. I mean, yeah, any serious conversation about the refinery as a one lock, stock, and barrel solution here is lacking in a lot of serious ways on what it could actually do. Couple ones pointing out, yeah, we did hit some of the colds here in our air last night, 31 degrees, had to break up some ice on the dog bowl outside that we had ourselves because just cold enough. I feel like the heater was on most of the night last night. Ugh. So bundle up out there, and particularly if you have need of any of those services, blankets, there are drives and distributions going on through, say, it's the City of El Paso Emergency Services Department and Fire Department. So, I mean, stay safe and stay warm out there. We're definitely in that bit of weather that we do end up getting here. But again, tomorrow those calls on the line here. Do have another one on the line, but the number to call is 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. You're live with Talk El Paso. Who's this?
It's Randall Guswin here.
Hey,
I'm about the old Rio Grande Oil Company that used to be downtown around 1910, and was carrying out kerosene, and the refinery was downtown, but they did the kerosene and all the different additives and stuff, fuels, whatever, gasoline, whatever, was off of the mule teams. They used to be driven around downtown El Paso, and that after World War I, they took the Liberty trucks and they switched it over to the oil being delivered by Liberty truck. But the original Rio Grande Oil Company was downtown off of 7th Street, and it was down there when Pancho Villa was down there having the revolution, and the guys were going out there and watching the refinery tanks and putting cork in the refinery tanks to plug up the holes from the revolution. So the original refinery we had here was downtown El Paso.
That's an interesting point to be made there. But I mean, yeah, there's been services like that going on forever. But I mean, to the modern day point of what the heck you could do with that current refinery, I mean, if there's any level of regulation that would come in and do anything to that, it would be hard to describe that as anything besides onerous at best and probably way overstepping more accurately. Because, I mean, there have been legacy operations in some way or shape or form happening in town, as you mentioned there, for nigh on a century now. And to say that now this place has got to lock up shop, even beyond the amount of government intervention that would involve, the impact to the local economy would not be insignificant. Because of the amount of jobs, I mean, they may not be top of mind, top of line here, but you think about all the infrastructure and resources, because it's not even just that refinery right there. We've got gas tanks, the ones you can see if you head off Montana out towards Waco tanks far enough, and then all the pipelines that come through here, that is all legacy equipment. So even just saying with a wave of a hand, we're making that one particular outpost go away, it would be nuts.
And it's not even that. It's the gas, the El Paso natural gas with the other Burlington Northern, with all the gas pipelines are going through our part of the country now too.
Oh, absolutely.
And they're all underground.
Yep. I mean, there's a lot of it going on in this area. And if suddenly there weren't that refinery going there, I would imagine some of those would have some impacts as well. I mean, we are not a gas producing area right here in our immediate broadcast area anyway. We start hitting them once you start getting out into like the, southeastern New Mexico, Permian Basin area. Sure, but that's a significant area that dealt with it.
But the gas lines from El Paso go all the way to California.
Yeah,
and so it's from the Panhandle. It's from Midland, Odessa. It's even from Oklahoma now. So they had those pump stations way up in the Panhandle, but they were pumping it all the way down to El Paso before it went out to California.
It's true. And also, as was pointed out in the last week, I think we had talked about going down into Mexico as well for the cross-border sales. So there's a significant amount of infrastructure developed around that in our area, even as I will admit I have noticed there being some gas stations starting to disappear in our area. I think that we'll see these facilities here for the foreseeable future, unless something truly catastrophic happens, in which case we got a different problem.
Well, I think so too. But is there anything? Has anybody made any mention as far as the how the Sun Bowl survived bankruptcy? Has anybody even talked about that as far as a local situation that was a miracle in the way that Central Michigan came over here and saved the Sun Bowl? Does anybody even know the story about how close we came to losing the Sun Bowl?
I mean, yeah, a game not happening in the year, a lot of people may think, oh, it'll be just fine. But given that this would have been the second year, no one's talked about it in the way you've just mentioned it now, but it makes a lot of sense.
Well, can I tell you the inside story? Because I was on the Sun Bowl host committee for 15 years.
Okay.
And then the bottom line was they could not have survived this bowl if they could not have found Central Michigan, because they made the payout because Washington State was here, but they were flat broke and they needed Central Michigan badly so they would have money for next year. Otherwise, if they had made the payoff, Washington State had gone home, the Sun Bowl was bankrupt. And so thank God that Central Michigan came in. Thank God it rained, because that's Central Michigan weather. And thank God it was 24-21. And hopefully, I haven't heard about the ratings on CBS, but hopefully they had at least a 5%, 5.1, 5.2 type of a rating by the television groups as far as Nielsen television ratings group. I'd like to even know what it was, because whatever it was, Central Michigan coming in as a complete and total unknown underdog, whipped up on Washington State that was supposed to just flatten them off of the face of the earth. And because of the weather, they're used to playing in that kind of weather up there in Michigan. So it was, they were happy to be here and playing a game. And so I don't know how much people even understood how close we came to losing the game, because they sold 34,000 tickets, but that was because of Miami Hurricanes. Those tickets were already sold. And so when this thing happened, I don't even know if there was 5,000-6,000 people in the stands, because it was raining, it was ugly, it was nasty. But that's what really, it was just amazing, the miracle of how this whole thing happened. And you got to really take your hat off to Bernie Olivas and to his guys, the staff for the Sun Bowl, because they didn't give up. They found another way. They found another team, and they kept the Sun Bowl is just as old as the Rose Bowl by technicality.
No, it is true. I think a lot of people forget about that, the literal history we have as part of it. But I mean, I was a little bit flabbergasted when I found out about the payouts that go along with it. I thought at first we were lucky that the the Barstool Arizona Bowl got axed, over us, and then we got to continue. But then the payouts made a very big impact on me. It's like $2.3 million per team paid from the Sun Bowl versus the Arizona Barstool Bowl, which is, I think it was $175,000. So there's serious chunks of change dealing on here, but yeah, it makes a lot of sense. But thank you for providing some insight on what it would take if it wouldn't have happened.
Yeah, we were that close to losing the game.
Fascinating.
We lucked out. We just lucked out by the skin of our teeth.
Well, that's very fascinating to know. I'd like to see more reporting on that. But thank you very much for the call. Do appreciate it.
All right, bye.
All right, now you have a good one and Happy New Year. I mean, that's why I mentioned it as of last week. I was a little bit worried about it, but I didn't realize how precarious it may have been described to be. That's a little intense. So glad it happened. Glad the game went off. I was trying to find some of the rankings here right now. It doesn't look like it's up just yet, at least not totally available right now. Yeah, see if I can find something over the break. We're due for another one here right now. So if you're wanting to call in yourself on the shows, we're in our second hour here. The number to call is 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. Promise we'll get into some about the election stuff I've been teasing here as we're getting in the bottom half of the second hour after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
With your CBS 4 News update, I'm Amanda Guillen. Dr. Anthony Fauci says the nation is seeing an almost vertical increase in new cases of COVID-19. The U.S. is now averaging an unprecedented 400,000 new cases per day. He says hospitalizations are also up. Even though evidence suggests the Omicron variant is less severe than other strains, there is still a danger of overwhelmed hospitals because of the volume of people being infected. Fauci says he's especially concerned for those who haven't been vaccinated yet and urges people to get as fully protected as possible against the highly contagious strain. And taking a look at the latest COVID-19 report for El Paso County, Sunday saw no additional deaths added to our total, but 155 new cases of the virus were reported. At last check, 362 patients are hospitalized with the virus, 111 of which are under intensive care today. That has been your CBS 4 News Update. I'm Amanda Guillen.
News Radio 690. Traffic all day.
Police on the scene of an accident, Alameda Boulevard at Paisano. Gateway Boulevard west of Airway, an accident reported at Buffalo Soldier. Fires on the scene there. I-10 westbound before Mesa, and after Thorne, you got slow and go traffic. And an injury accident, a crash at Joe Battle southbound on the Edgemere on-ramp. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, this is Chief Meteorologist Sandra Diaz. Looks like our work week is turning out to be a little quieter as well as a little warmer. So look for a gradual increase in our temperatures as we see the return of temperature highs in the 60s. Meanwhile, those overnight lows still looking bitterly cold. We will see another weather pattern change, but not until the weekend. So until then, enjoy.
This report is sponsored by DuckDuckGo. Protect your privacy for free with DuckDuckGo.
I feel like I'm being haunted by a pair of headphones. Everywhere I go is a creepy ad for headphones I looked at one time. I hate that feeling like I'm being watched. I downloaded DuckDuckGo and saw a difference right away. Take back your privacy online with DuckDuckGo. Privacy simplified.
Attend the Las Cruces Gun Show this weekend, January 8th and 9th at the Las Cruces Convention Center, 680 East University Ave in Las Cruces. See dealers selling the finest in modern guns, antique guns, custom knives, ammo, Old West collectibles, reloading supplies, and much more. Buy, sell, and trade at the Las Cruces Gun Show this weekend, January 8th and 9th, Las Cruces Convention Center, 680 East University in Las Cruces. Get $2 off. Go to azgunradio.com. Parking is free.
Hi, Phil Swift here for the Flex Seal family of products. You know, there's a lot of ways to protect your home. You could dig a moat. You could bubble wrap it. Or you could train a pack of wolves to protect it. But the best way is with the Flex Seal family of products. So when you need to patch, bond, seal, repair, and stop leaks fast, get the Flex Seal family of products. Available at flexsealproducts.com and fine retailers.
If New Year calls for more hiring, check out Indeed, the all-in-one hiring platform that makes it easy to attract, screen, and interview candidates all in one place. Sponsor your first job post today after visiting Indeed.com/credit. This report is sponsored by Indeed.com.
There won't be much substance on your news feed until you add us. Just like us or click on the link at kcsmradio.com.
I adopted Bento in 2010 from a shelter. A lot of people know him as Keyboard Cat.
That's just one adoption story that started at a shelter. Visit theshelterpetproject.org to find a pet near you. Brought to you by Maddie's Fund, the Humane Society of the United States, and the Ad Council.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. Your host, Andrew J. Polk. Call running a little bit long in the break there, but if you want to call in during the show, as we're doing this 2-hour thing, that number to do so, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. Another interesting-ish point being brought up by Calvin Williams over in the comments here. If oil refineries that are older than everyone in the area are the problem, why haven't all the regulations that cost millions fixed the problem? Do we need to throw more money at it? I think you know the answer to that question, given how you put it, but onerous government regulation is never usually a good solution for anything. I'm not saying that there aren't some good ones involving like bare bones safety at the very least, because there are some badly operated operations out there. But to a larger extent, you have to start stepping in and guiding the destiny of a business. That's where it starts getting a real weird and shisty from my perspective on its own. So again, the impact of taking that out, I guess I kind of think of it in the same kind of way of some other callers have said that we need to allow there to be no crossing from the other side of the border ever for any reason whatsoever, just complete Iron Curtain style. And the doctrine of unintended consequences is pretty dang strong when we're talking about that kind of an impact on what it would mean for locally, even if you think that, the immediate benefit would be great. It would definitely guaranteed 100% cripple the situation we see in our side of the border and in our borderland community on its own. Like, it would just be, you might as well nuke the place for the impact that it's going to have and the not quite literal fallout that it's going to have from that. So, I mean, it's almost not worth talking about for all the impacts that it would have. One other topic I want to put bug in y'all's ear about before we end the show, as we're coming into the bottom of the hour here today, is we do have a new superintendent for one of El Paso's largest school districts, the El Paso Independent School District. We do have now the official start of the tenure of Diana Saavedra, the new superintendent put into place by the Board of Trustees for EPISD, beginning of the last month of December. She has now said that as she has now started the tenure, she's going to be spending her first days listening and learning, and will soon present a superintendent entry plan to outline the strategies and goals that will guide the initial days in the district. So that'll be one to look for, and that is somewhat related to what a previous caller of ours was, Jerome Tillman, who there has been an obituary posted, so we can now, by our own station policies, talk about it. Has some information coming out about a potential memorial service for that and a funeral. Once we have more details exact and confirmed on that, we'll talk more about that as well. Probably have something coming up on that on our air here. We have done interviews with him over the years on our time and just doing this show, most specifically from his last run for an elected office with that Board of Trustees seat that he ran for. So probably have more on that just as a small note. But as the other one that I've been kind of teasing this whole, talking about elections, something coming out today, not too long before our show here. Let me get the email up here from the Office of the Attorney General. Yeah, a couple hours before our show. Just working on some things about a Head Start program, vaccine and mask mandates, but more largely them having some issues and concerns about election integrity. This also, of course, comes on the heels of that election audit here in Texas, which, not going to lie, still baffles me a little bit, because at the same time that the Attorney General has said that they ran the most secure election overall, point being that what they're talking about now, that they want a rehearing because of concerns about the ability to what they call or maintain election integrity. So this, of course, is all happening under the specter of these upcoming elections, which we do have a whole lot of seats going to be on the ballot. Practically every partisan seat within the state of Texas is going to be on the ballot, except for like some of the statewide positions coming up here on the ballot in March. It's already coming. I mean, you can almost smell the early voting. I don't know if you've looked around town, but the amount of already candidate posters, banners, etc., that have gone up around town, starting to get a little bit overwhelming for me as it is, and I'm sure it's only going to get more and more as we get closer to it. So we have got a whole lot of seats statewide and even just at the local level that are going to be on that. It still baffles me that in some of the most contentious and the most in the news positions from our local area over this past year, the ones that even our callers have been the most irate about at various points, don't have challengers. That just baffles me. It really comes down to it, that we don't have a challenger, a reasonable challenger. There's technically an independent, but for the county judge seat. Again, this has nothing to do with my personal opinions or feelings about that particular elected official, but given the discussion that has happened with it, the fact that no one thought to run, that no one thought to, maybe I'll challenge this seat within its own party, I'm not too surprised about, but particularly from on the other side of the ballots, it just baffles me, as well as I'm pretty sure a majority of our state legislators. It just, it's endemic of the larger problem that we have in this region about people being actually involved in the process when it comes to elections. But the larger point I wanted to make here is that we do have some redistricting coming for city council. That is actually still in the works here right now. But if you go over and check it out for yourself on the El Paso, Texas.gov/shape EP, see it for yourself here. They've got the current maps and what the draft maps are coming up for city council. So I know we've had some calls to focus more on what has been referred to as the politics that we can affect here locally, but you can see it for yourself. And this is the map that's going to be getting voted on before too long by city council as what will be in place for this next 10 years until the next census. Basically, what it comes down to is that there were some districts that grew heartily over this last census here, while some actually ended up shrinking. But the difference that was needed is that the districts needed to be between 80 and 89, basically between 80 and 90,000 people in each. And some only had 70,000, some had 118,000, because sure, the city saw basically no growth. It was like 4%, so it wasn't technically zero, but compared to like the rest of the county and then other parts of Texas, of course, it was pretty hefty of a deficit, and why we technically ended up losing legislators when it comes to the state level. So all of that compounds to there being new district maps. So who you are voting for and which district you live in, very, very likely to change coming up here. And that's going to be voting on by city council before too long. 2021 and the end of it, December basically, were the last meetings that they had. So reaching out to the city, hopefully we can talk more about that and what we can expect and how this process went about and what it's going to mean for you next time we go to the ballot box here. We are taking those calls to the end of the show here, so if you are wanting to call in, that number to do so, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. Edgar Ortiz making a decent point here that I both agree with and am frustrated as hell by, that politics have gotten just so nasty that most people aren't willing to jump into the mud pit. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm saying that more people need to suck it up and do it, because if you think that if I ignore, like, I don't even think a lot of people are like, oh, no, it's too messy. I think a lot of people are just head in the sand. They're just ostriching it. Just saying, well, I don't have to pay attention to it, therefore it's not a problem. And that never, ever works in life. So it frustrates the hell out of me. But all right, get to a couple calls on the line here right now. So again, that number to call, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. You're live with Talk El Paso. Who's this?
Hi, this is Joe from the West Side. Hey, the reason I was calling was because the guy called in from Northeast El Paso, and he was talking about socialism. And, a lot of people don't know what socialism is. And I'm surprised that this fellow, because he's always bragging about his job that he sells financial portfolio investments. And, portfolio investments is you're investing in capitalism, believe it or not. And I don't think he knows this. And I think there's a lot of people that don't know that. They don't know what socialism is and what capitalism is. And I think this guy tells you everything about what's happening here in El Paso, And I think people need to be careful when, they're investing their money with these individual types of people that don't really know what they're doing. So and the other thing I wanted to talk to you about was fossil fuels.
Sure.
Fossil fuels have been around for a long time, and they're pretty well managed. And somewhat, they're technically clean. They're not as pollutant as they used to be.
Oh, yeah, of course.
But on the other hand, batteries are hazardous waste. I don't know if people know this, but batteries are considered hazardous waste. Now, if you buy a vehicle, what they're saying is, or what they're telling us, or what we know so far is that these vehicles can have between 50 and 90 batteries. Now, that's a vehicle. Now, imagine you have 50 to 90 batteries in one vehicle, and you have at least 3 to 4 million vehicles. Can you imagine what's going to happen to all those batteries? What are you going to do with all those batteries? They only last like 8 to 10 years. I would go more for 10 years. So every 10 years, you're going to have millions, if not billions, of batteries, waste that are, going to pollute the ground. And I know the facts, and I know the consequences of, trying to salvage batteries, because I worked on a project.
Oh, okay.
And this project was, it was a brownfield. I mean, it's terrible for the people that live in the area, and it's terrible for the ground.
Oh yeah.
So people that are pushing personally, I'm going to buy a battery car, but the fact of the matter is that it's more pollutant than fossil fuels, especially for the ground. We pretty much know how to control fossil fuels now, and it's a money-making process for us to have fossil fuels until we can get it, until we can find something better than battery-run cars. Because, like I say, batteries are hazardous waste.
Currently.
Okay, thanks.
No, thank you for those points. I mean, yeah, if you just... An area I think about a lot is actually there are pictures of some of the mining operations that happen for not quite the rare earth minerals that will go into parts of these, but for like the cobalt, some of the heavy metals that end up going into it in parts of the African continent, such as Nigeria. There are just these hellscapes, is the only way to put it, of where this stuff is mined, where, as has been said, no regulation, no restrictions. The companies can just come in and do whatever the heck they want for the most part, as long as there is money being exchanged and being given to the people in charge, essentially. And I've even seen the quote-unquote high-tech operations, in videos and reports of the battery recycling, and they can only still at this point reclaim between like 25 and 50% of what's in that, and the rest of it goes into this black goo that is literally, I mean, you might as well put it in the Yucca Mountain facility next with all the other toxic hazardous waste that we hope never leaks out into perpetuity. Now, I'm not saying that the technology won't necessarily catch up here, but it's the same kind of then problem of the refinery or the move away from fossil fuels. It has to be a process. If you're really, really advocating for it and say, yes, this needs to happen, of which I've got issues with, particularly when it comes to like self-driving and kill switches and all that stuff, I'm going to have my own come to Jesus moment with it. But if you're saying that it just needs to stop one day and switch right over to the next one, you are living a dream. It is never, ever going to work that way. I mean, heck, even the adoption of the internal combustion engine in cars and vehicles and roads and streets as we know them today didn't happen overnight. I mean, it can be easy to call the last century the century of the car, the century of the vehicle, the American century on the road. It didn't happen overnight. It happened over a long concerted time of technologies growing up and developing to support it. And I mean, I will say for electric vehicles, I think the problems will probably be overcome. I mean, there was the whole issue with, catalytic converters and lead gas when it came to the original implementation, even within living memory, of gasoline-powered vehicles. So I think it can be overcome, but to just say, and so therefore it's ready now, you are missing the boat. You are out to lunch. You are not paying attention to what the realities are. It can also be writ large for when it comes to solar panels and wind turbines, as great as they are in the potential for developing different forms of energy. There's no real way to deal with it at the moment here. So thank you for the point and that call there. We're going to go ahead and take that last break as we head into the bottom of the hour here right now. So again, tuned in here for Talk El Paso, second hour of it here coming to the end. So if you want to call in, we'll get in a couple more. That number to call, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso. You're on News Radio 690 KTSM.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
The latest El Paso traffic. Police on the scene of an accident in Alameda at Paisano. I-10 westbound is slow and go from Wrestler to Thorn. Paseo del Norte between I-10 and Wrestler is also some slow and go traffic. Loop 375 northbound at Pebble Hills, a stalled vehicle blocking the right shoulder there. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by DuckDuckGo. Protect your privacy for free with DuckDuckGo.
I feel like I'm being haunted by a pair of headphones. Everywhere I go is a creepy ad for headphones I looked at one time. I hate that feeling like I'm being watched. I downloaded DuckDuckGo and saw a difference right away. Take back your privacy online with DuckDuckGo. privacy simplified.
iHeartRadio Earth knows small changes can make a big difference. Want to reduce your food waste? Embrace your freezer. From bread to meat and even cheese, most foods can be frozen and cooked later. Plus, a full freezer uses less electricity. Brought to you by iHeartRadio Earth and the National Environmental Education Foundation. To find more tips for smarter, sustainable living or to take action in your own community, go to iHeartRadio.com/Earth.
When you need your home or business clean, leave it to the big dogs. Bulldog's Professional Cleaning won't quit until your space is sparkling clean. We do it all. Carpet cleaning, pet treatment, deep cleaning, and more. We provide superior service using eco-friendly chemicals. Trash and appliance pickup is available with a disposal fee. Your prices can't be beat. See why homes, offices, and restaurants have trusted Bulldog's Professional Cleaning for 7 years. Schedule your cleaning today. Call Bulldog's Professional Cleaning at 915-694-4643.
Let's face it, credit cards are pretty much a necessity.
New tires for the car? Here's my card.
I order takeout, use my card. And most of us just accept the high interest rates credit cards charge as a necessary evil.
What are you going to do?
Get a low fixed-rate credit card consolidation loan from Lightstream from $5,000 to $100,000 and pay off those credit card balances. Apply online, and you could get your money as soon as the day you apply. The average credit card company charges over 19% APR, but with Lightstream, you can get a fixed rate as low as 4.98% APR with autopay and excellent credit.
Now I can pay off my high-interest credit cards and save money with a much lower rate.
Apply today at lightstream.com/radio and get an additional interest rate discount. That's lightstream.com/radio. Lightstream.com/radio.
Subject to credit approval. Rates range from 4.98% APR to 19.99% APR and include a 0.5% autopay discount. Lowest rate requires excellent credit. Terms and conditions apply and offers are subject to change without notice. Visit lightstream.com/radio for more information.
News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso. Wrapping up our first 2-hour show of the year and ever, because that's what we're doing 4 to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday here now, talking about the issues that affect us here in the Borderland. Some of the major topics been talking about today: elections, economy, housing availability, all that kind of stuff. Tomorrow we're going to be having on joined by Robbie Gray, editor of El Paso Inc., to talk about their El Paso of the Year, which we talked about. Spoiler alert, it's already been out, the issue for a minute. The El Paso of the Year was announced as Dr. Richard Lang, president of Texas Tech University Health Sciences Center, El Paso. I know, it's a mouthful, but you got to say the whole thing. So, get into at least one more call here before we're done for the day, but we'll be back here tomorrow. Also have those pound 250 calls as well, if you want to get to. We'll get to one here in just a minute, but right now we do have with us Jerry from the Northwest there. Jerry, thanks for joining us.
Well, thank you, Andrew, for taking my call. I want to address the reason why there is a burning on those chimneys in there from the tail gases of the refinery. Otherwise, you're going to get gases like H2S, hydrogen sulfide, in the environment. And that is a deadly, deadly gas. It's one of those that 2 breaths and you're dead.
Yeah.
So you don't want that. So, Raul, unless you can come up with a better system of taking care of them gas, and I don't know, you could smoke it as far as I care. Anyway, there has to be some way. You have to get rid of it, and burning it is the best way we can think of right now. Second is the batteries.
Yes.
There are current batteries that are coming out. There are liquid form of lithium ion.
Okay.
And they are smaller. They are smaller than a postage stamp, and they hold a lot of electrical current or storage capability, and they're working on that. In fact, I get people that want to help me invest in that frequently because I do dabble with the hydrogen portion of exploration.
Interesting. Okay.
Anyway, if we go to socialism, Raul, I hope you enjoy all your meals today because you'll get a lot less later. Thank you, sir. Have a good day.
Yeah, you too. Thank you for the calls here as we're closing out. First of our 2-hour shows of the year and ever. I mean, I often find a lot of people who talk about socialism, not mentioning anyone in general, but just the concept and the discussion, often it comes down to socialism for thee, but not for me. I don't know. Everyone else should have socialism, but we're perfectly fine in my area. I won't actually need any of it here. Just something I've noticed, I will say here. Did mention we have a pound 250 call on the line. Again, thank you for that call. Pound 250 line. That's a way you can leave us a message day or night, particularly as we end up off air here today. You can give us a call by dialing pound 250 on your cell phone, saying the keyword Talk El Paso when prompted. Leave your own message like this.
This is Patricia Frankie. Happy New Year to you and everybody else out there, Southwest Border region. I just wanted to share with you a quick note, a wonderful quick note, that nut job from Georgia, Motherly Suggery Green Glob, has been kicked off of Twitter permanently. Oh, goody. I'm so excited. And I just wanted to share that with all you other nut job supporters of her and the rest of those creeps out there that want to destroy the United States of America, insurrectionists, seditionists, schmucks. What do you think of that?
Well, since you asked what we think about that, that's a whole nother show about effectively non-governmental censorship. I'm completely over saying, well, it's not technically censorship because it's not a government doing. No, it's just non-governmental censorship when it comes down to it. And that's another one of those things when it's fine for thee, but not for me. When it happens to someone else, someone I don't like, it's totally justified. But if it happens to me, then it's unjust, the worst thing ever. Now, isn't it? But we'll have to leave it there for today because that's a whole nother kettle of fish and a whole nother subject here that we'll probably get into as we are doing this 4 to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday right here on News Radio 690 KTSM. So, sincerely, thank you to everyone who did tune in, call in, comment, participate in today's show. We'll do it again tomorrow, 4 to 6 p.m. right here on News Radio 690 KTSM. I've been your host, Andrew J. Polk. A lot more subjects, talking more about that. The Mark Levin radio program coming up right after this. Thank you for tuning in. We'll see you tomorrow. Have a good evening. Stay safe out there and look twice for motorcycles when out on the road. Talk to y'all tomorrow.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
We got an accident on the 20 Alameda Avenue at Paisano with police on the scene there. I-10 westbound is slow and go from Wrestler up to Thorne. 375 Border Highway westbound at Ascarati, another vehicle blocking the right shoulder there. And there's a black semi blocking the right shoulder, Artcraft eastbound at Upper Valley. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
If you're tired of big cable bills and want to cut the cord, you can still get Newsmax TV for free. Millions of Americans like you are watching Newsmax. It's available on all major cable systems, or get it free on major streaming platforms. Watch Newsmax on smart TVs like Samsung, LG, Vizio, and more. Find Newsmax on your hub guide or use the TV app. Newsmax also streams free on Roku, Xumo, Pluto, Amazon Fire, TiVo, Apple TV, Chromecast, and more. More than 7 million people have downloaded the free Newsmax app on their smartphones. There's no paywall or subscription, so watch Newsmax anytime, anywhere. Forbes calls Newsmax a news powerhouse. And watch great shows with Mike Huckabee, Greg Kelly, Rob Schmidt, Diamond and Silk, Stinchfield, and a lot more. Find out why America is tuning in to Newsmax TV, the fastest growing cable news channel. It's a source you can trust. Newsmax is